Hi! So, this being my first installment of this thing I'm trying to do, chatting about my own game design, I want to talk to you about Dreamwake and the basic concepts that are its foundation. I would say that the first instinct, the first element that comes to mind when thinking about the design of Dreamwake is laziness. I am lazy. I don't like to work on infinite details and mechanical things that I have to polish, each one different and each one a pebble in a long string of pebbles. So the main goal was to have a very strong, a very tight and neat structure that would inform the participants on how to play the game and how to contribute to the game in a creative way. Most of the things explained in the rulebook are nothing more than models, structures meant to help people use the fiction of the game in a mechanically relevant way. So perks, tools, details, everything is just normal fiction passed through a very tight and ordered scheme model of rules. This way, to create something new, you don't have to make up new rules. You use the normal rules you have to tag, to describe, to put your fiction in a place rather than another and have it have mechanical relevance. This is true for the basic rules of the game, and it informs the way of the way you can manipulate the game. At the end of the rulebook, I offer an appendix explaining how to make up your own setting, your own characters, powers, whatever, your own content. It is simply an iteration of the perk, tool, the tagged fiction structure. And it's just an explanation on how to do it yourself. What I offer are practical examples. For example, the Cyberwake setting, the Fantasy Wake setting, and the very same Dreamwake setting are just these. These rules applied to details, fiction. This was very important to me because one of the main goals of this design was to have a tool to salvage what I loved of a lot of all the traditional games, which is the setting. I want my rules, my way of doing things with those settings. And with other settings that I can come up with the players along the time I play, or with their ideas, or be a flexible tool, but a tool that still, whatever setting you put in, whatever details you offer it, it would work as expected. I don't have to make new amends, new exceptions, new small rules for everything I need to come up with, to play. If you look at the Dreamwake crunchy bits, that's a perfect example. They are just perks, just tools, just other details or other parts of the game. For example, the friction mechanic is just another opposition clock. The mechanical functioning is the same. I just switch the fictional part. And thanks to how I designed the whole structure of the game, that's enough. If I want a new power, I don't have to balance it, I don't have to make calculations, I don't have to think up numbers, levels, whatever. I just say pyrokinesis, I describe in fictional terms, in layman terms, what does it do, and it's a perk, and there you have it. Or a tool. They are structures, models, to do as you feel more comfortable with. And that's basically it. The laziness is also the main goal, the main source of inspiration for the game being GM-less. I don't want anybody to be forced to be the different player with different responsibilities that usually ends up having more responsibilities, more work to do, albeit I understand many people can see it as fun and entertaining. I came to dislike it kind of a lot. I just want to be a player along with the other players. Maybe a very active player, a very involved player, but not the one everybody looks at for answers, always, all the time. Not the one everybody expects to have the solutions, the answers, the preparation. I don't want people to expect from me that I do a job so that they can play. And in a GM-less game, usually, this doesn't happen. Maybe because the GM takes turns, or because, as in Dreamwake, there is no possibility of being a GM. You may be required from time to time to give some input in a very minimal way, and if you want, if you are inspired or have the will to do it, you can put more input into the game. But it actively impedes you, obstacles you in being a narrator, a director, a game master. You cannot do it, and sport, no one is expected to do it, and the rules support this. And this is for my laziness. I don't want to be the game master, so I don't expect anybody else to be the game master, and I don't need a game master. Most times I fail to play some games I love because no one in my circles of friends has the time or the knowledge, because you have to know the game, to be a game master. So tough luck, we're not playing that game. I don't want this to pass with Dreamwake. So you don't need a game master. You don't need a lot of players. 2 participants total is enough to have a perfectly normal, standard, full game experience that doesn't change even if you have 3, 4, 5 players. I would argue against having too many players, and if you are just trying the game, unless everybody is really on the boat with you, not having too many players at the table, so 4 or 5 is a bit harder. But other than that caveat, you can just pick up the game and play. The one who studied the game will be the facilitator. At first, maybe everyone will look at him for game explanations, but that's it. And in my experience, more or less at the end of the first session, everybody is an expert of the game. And by the second and third session, it will all go much smoother. But that's it. Laziness. I didn't want to have to do work, not in the designer phase, not in the game phase. So this is one of the pillars of the game. This laziness shows also in another aspect of the game mechanics. The communication rules. I don't want to have to argue with people to get on the same page. I don't want lengthy discussions. So while other games may have, for very good reasons, a lengthy pitch phase or an arbiter that helps people, that moderates the discussion, the conversation, and helps people get ideas out and sort them out together, I opted for very efficient, very no-nonsense communication rules, so that we can just say a couple of things to start with. Okay, so let's play a steampunk game with no aliens but dinosaurs, without the steam but gaslight or what have you, Smurfs. And this usually is not enough in other games to be everybody on the same page. What about the tone of the game? Should it be serious or more comical or over the top or atmospheric or whatever? Should we do more investigation-y game adventures or combat-y adventures or whatever? Do we intend steampunk as in the exploration and weird science meaning, or more of the future past than ever was gimmick-y meaning? Or what do we mean with steampunk? What do we mean with horror? Is it slasher? Is it intimistic horror? This all will take a lengthy pitch discussion, and players and game masters, if there are, that are aware of those issues, thus they address them. In Dreamwake you don't need this, because this is handled during play. Whenever someone says something that I don't like, the veto rule allows me to express it right here, right now, for this thing, and it obliges me to explain why, to help the others come up with good solutions to my problem, the problem that prompted the veto, but also means that I express right now that I understand a problem, a need of mine, something to the table. So it helps every time a player uses the veto, it helps everybody get on the same page on everything: the style, the theme, the aim of the game, the elements that we wanted and that we don't want. And the more we play together, the less veto will happen at the table. This is even more true for the disagreement mechanic. It is even stronger in doing basically the same thing. The veto is more aesthetic. It's for details, for ephemera, for how we describe things, which is, in a fiction first game, 90% of the important stuff. The other 10% is handled by an even stronger mechanic, an even more no-nonsense mechanic. You have to pay to make your voice heard, and you have to pay more than everyone else to have things go your way. And this sorts out any other issue. This is at all not possible. This is possible. I think this should work this way than the other. And in my experience, it's used even more rarely, and the more you go on, the less you use it, because there's no need. Every time you express yourself in such a strong way, you strongly express how the game should be, and you see also a common consensus from the others, who bid against you, who said nothing, who said, okay, I will give my influence points to you or to the other player to support that idea of how the game should go. So instead of working first and then maybe doing some work that was not necessary, or in my experience you do some work then accounts for nothing, because people not always know what they would like. So yes, I would like a dark game like Dexter and something, and then in the game they do totally different things. Then that work, that preliminary work, is wasted. I don't want that. I'm lazy, so I only work when it's necessary, where it's necessary, in a very effective way that lessens the work. The more I use veto and disagreement, the less I will need them in the future. And that, more or less, is the basic foundation of Dreamwake: laziness. That's more than 15 minutes of ranting, so I would call it a day for this first episode. And if you want to know something else specific, let me know by email, Patreon message, comment on this video on Patreon, or my webpage, on the forums and chats I usually wander around. And otherwise, I think the next episode will focus more specifically on practical elements of the game. For example, how the setting in a box structure can be used and handled, or how to use the perks, tools, details, mechanic, or some other thing I will come up for the next episode. Thank you for watching, and bye till next time.